Good afternoon.
Hello. Senator Lathrop, Senators, it's nice to be here with you today.
Thank you.
My name is Teresa Ewens. First name is T-E-R-E-S-A. Last name is E-W-I-N-S. I'm the Chief of Police for the Lincoln Police Department. I'm present today to offer testimony in opposition of LB 773. Also, I've been asked to state that there is opposition from the Police Chiefs Association of Nebraska, as well as the Police Officers Association of Nebraska. After review of this proposed legislation and internal conversations of its impact to our organization and the community of Lincoln, I have some major concerns. One, I've broken it down into the letter that I wrote into three really specific areas: officer and public safety. While Lincoln is generally a safe community, we have experienced our share of gun violence related to gangs, drugs, and robberies. Allowing persons to freely carry a concealed weapon, and that means handguns, shotguns, knives, and rifles per this legislation, will make our job of safeguarding Lincoln more difficult. This bill will allow the criminal element of our communities to carry legally, as they may not be a prohibited person. Without a permitting process and training, you will have individuals who shouldn't be carrying and carrying without the proper skills necessary to assess the situation and determine when the lethal force is lawful. This also increases the propensity for mistakes, which can result in innocent people being injured, including our officers. Next thing I'd like to point out is background education and training. Nebraska's self-defense laws are complex. Those who use a firearm in self-defense must do so lawfully or be exposed to both civil and criminal penalties. Officers are required to go through a background check, hours of training, and a certification process. Without requiring a permitting process where training and background checks are required, our communities will not be safe. And then let's just get in. I know this is a little bit simpler after I've heard everyone's testimony, but the fiscal impact on Lincoln itself. There's many things that are stated in here in which not only impact law enforcement, but also the fire department, in which they have to hand over, and it is a shall, all firearms that they have to take from people they are treating. And a lot of times that is not something that we actually go out and do. And so now we have to do that, and that's actually in the current law. But we have to adjust to that. We now have to have increased training. What is physical and mental capability? What does that mean? The one thing I want to kind of get off script a little bit is no one's mentioned the need to call 911 in their testimonies. And as a chief of police coming from a city of 800,000 people and worked in the worst crime areas, I will tell you, not calling 911 is a huge mistake, and taking it upon yourself to do what law enforcement should do. And I'll leave it at that. I got my red light, so.
Okay. Any questions, Senator DeBoer?
Sorry, that last point you were on, I thought was interesting, but I didn't totally understand what you were saying. So
I was rushing because of the yellow light.
I know,
so
and I figured as much. So I wanted to give you the opportunity to explain what that was, because I just wanted to know what you had to say.
So on the physical and mental capability, or the fiscal part?
The last part with calling 911 on all of that.
Yeah, I mean, I am a believer in the Second Amendment. Absolutely. I know some people might have feelings. I've been here for 5 months, I know, and I am from California, but I do believe in the Second Amendment. And calling 911 is absolutely something that we need to do if you feel that there is danger and if you need help. We've done a great job in Lincoln. The officers here are tremendous. But if we're not calling 911 to have those officers come out and do what everyone is describing as far as taking action, that's just not a good policy to have.
So you're saying that instead of private citizens reacting to a situation, you would prefer that they call 911 to react?
So training, we go through a lot of training, ongoing training. We recognize what a danger is. Sometimes community members, they're miscategorizing what they see. And we'll explain it to them that, okay, so this is what you saw, but is this really a danger? And a lot of times it's not, to where they feel danger, but it's not really where you're gonna take action. If I'm explaining this, okay. So escalation of a situation is what I actually do fear in this legislation. I can come to you and say, you know what, you need to stop what you're doing right now, because if you're putting yourself in harm's way, that's also a problem. You're escalating it. Where it may, if an officer comes, they're going to de-escalate the situation. They may actually have a peaceful ending to it. But if you have somebody that's not trained, that doesn't understand that, then it can escalate and get really out of hand. Now, if a community member doesn't like what a police officer is doing, that also can be an escalation where it doesn't need to be. So it could be an argument that's going to get out of control, and then bad things will happen from that.
So I think what I'm hearing you say is that you want to make sure that those who have been trained have the opportunity to respond to situations because you've been trained to do so. Is that right?
Yes, it's our job.
And then with respect to how it applies to this law, or this bill before us, rather, what is, this is the thing I'm wondering, what is the difference between the, thank you, what is the difference between a concealed carry permit and just concealed carry without the permit, in terms of what you're talking about there? I'm just curious how it's relating to this bill.
So when people feel, when you have the current law, you have a separation of the ammunition from the weapon. There's a pause there, in which if you're going to take action, you actually have to think about it instead of removing it and shooting. So, when we talk about this, there's moments when you know danger. And I've been doing this for 26 years, and I've worked in very violent areas in San Francisco. And I've seen things develop, and I understand it. It's just you cannot, as a citizen, jump in because you're interpreting something. You may not even understand what you're seeing. Maybe it's a plainclothes officer.
Well,
Maybe it's somebody that you may not agree with. And you're going to take action because you think that you're right and the other person is wrong.
Thank you.
Senator Pansy Brooks.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, Chief Ewens. Welcome to Lincoln, and
Thank you.
welcome to the Judiciary Committee. We're glad to have you here. I agree with your point that we should be having as our first response to call 911, and I appreciate that, rather than having people deciding to take the law into their own hands. And there's a difference between just concealing carry to immediately protect yourself versus concealing carry to become almost a vigilante or somebody who wants to become law enforcement themselves without the training. And I do agree that it makes situations more difficult. I also really like the point in your testimony, which you really didn't say because you were racing through it, about that the state, if cost is to the public is the issue, then the state should reduce the permit fee and subsidize training costs. I mean, I think that's a good idea. If really the cost is the issue, those are really good ideas. So I too am a supporter of the Second Amendment. I just think that we have to do it wisely and carefully and protect the police. And so thank you for coming to testify today.
Thank you.
I do not see any more questions. Thanks for being here, Chief.
Thank you.
We appreciate hearing from